Hi, this is Rob from All Music and All Bands, and we're talking with Gretchen Menn, lead and only guitarist for the band Zepparella. How are you doing today?
Hey, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I just want to say first off, thank you very much for taking the time to conduct this interview. You and your entire band are such amazing musicians. I mean, I cannot stress that
Oh,
enough. Yes.
that means so much to me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very welcome. I got to see Zepparella a couple of years ago at a place called the Trail in Buffalo, New York. At the time, there was a different lineup. Since then, there's been
Yeah.
since then you've had changes in the vocal and bassist position. Can you talk about that? Like who were the new members and how did you meet?
Yeah. Zepparella's been around for, over 10 years now. I think not quite 15. So we've had a number of people, come into and out of the band. We've been very lucky to have people who are wonderful musicians and lovely human beings, and sometimes have diverged, musically, and people don't, when you join a band, you don't necessarily sign up to be in it until everybody else dies. So,
Correct.
sometimes lineup changes happen, and I've been, every lineup we've had, I think it has something unique and special about it. The current one we have is Anna Christina on vocals, and actually she was our original singer. So she was the one who was with the band for many years. And I think really was part of putting the band on the map in a larger way with the video we did for When the Levee Breaks, which we just did to kind of show people what we were doing, and for booking purposes. We didn't expect it to get the attention that it has, but I think a lot of people knew her for a long time as the singer, not just because of her initial tenure in the band, but also how visible she was with that video. And then Holly West, our bass player, who's been with us for about a year now, we met her through a mutual friend, Tracy Guns, from LA Guns. And when I told him we were needing a replacement, he's like, I got you. I know exactly who this is going to be. And to be honest, not that I don't completely trust Tracy. He's a phenomenal musician, a lovely person, but it's a tall order to find a bandmate. It's not just your business partner and musical partner, but also your travel companion and, frankly, your new best friend with the amount of time you spend with your band. So it had, the next person needed to have kind of a very specific and tall order criteria. So, but Holly just has been an absolute delight, and I'm having a wonderful time with this band. I mean, I always do. But I feel like we feel like a band.
I know you have a show coming up. If I'm not mistaken, it is on February 23rd. What can the fans expect for that show?
The one February 23rd is my original music, so that is not Zepparella. Yeah. Well, what they can expect is something very different from Zepparella, and it's instrumental music. So it's my own original, and it's played in trio. So it's me on guitar and my drummer Thomas Perry, who I've played with for a number of years now. He did all the drums on my most recent album, Abandon All Hope, and he's been the only drummer I've had for my live stuff, for my solo stuff live. And then Anna Pfeiffer is playing with us too, and she was the actual substitute bass player for Zepparella's previous bass player, and she's fantastic. When she was actually the first person we went to when we knew we needed a new bass player, but she didn't quite have the time, and that's why we dug a little deeper, and we're so lucky to find Holly. And then when it came time for me to start getting more serious again about my originals, I thought, well, I love Anna Pfeiffer. Let's see if she's up for something that's maybe a little bit less rigorous with the touring than Zepparella, and she was, and it's been great fun. So I think it'll be a really fun show. Both Tom and Anna are phenomenal musicians and lovely people, and so far we've had a really fun musical and interpersonal chemistry.
You know, speaking of your second album, Abandon All Hope, why did you choose Dante's Inferno for a theme for it?
The idea was pitched to me by Michael Melenda. He was the former editor-in-chief of Guitar Player magazine for a number of years. I think he was actually the longest editor-in-chief the magazine has ever had. And he had heard my first album, Hail Souls, and he heard something in a piece that I had written for solo violin that made him think maybe it would be interesting to encourage me outside of just instrumental guitar albums and something a little bit more compositional and conceptual. And the timing was wonderful because I had actually been toying with exactly that idea. I have such a love of literature. I come from a family of writers. And so, you know, I was raised on, like, I was truly reading Shakespeare when I was, I think, in third or fourth grade. And that's not, I don't mean that in a self-congratulatory way. That's just, you know, if that's what your parents are putting in your hands, that's what you're like, okay, I guess that's what I'm reading. So I'd always loved the idea of seeing if there was a way to combine the two, or to have literature and instrumental music have a symbiotic relationship in something that I was doing. And when Michael Melenda pitched the idea of Dante's Inferno, I was like, this is like the most perfect idea for a concept album. So it wasn't a long pitch because I immediately said yes, but then it was a lot of planning and scheming and strategizing and me scratching my head and coming up with an educational course of study for myself to really get my compositional orchestration and guitar chops to a new level in order to be able to tackle the project.
What are some of your favorite songs off of Abandon All Hope?
Oh gosh, I think you can't pick favorites. I can't, at least. I feel like if there's anything that I put on an album, it's because I do believe in it. So I don't know that I'm sure I can't pick a favorite. Sorry, I don't mean to give a non-answer, but I can't.
Oh, no, it's fine. What are your favorite effects to use? What kind of distortion?
The distortion that I use is often the amp. So on Abandon All Hope, I use my Engel Special Edition 670 with EL34s. And then, like in Zepparella, all of the overdrive comes from my Two-Rock Bionics. I do have a boost pedal, but that's not for distortion so much. I mean, you can add a little bit of gain, but it's really just to boost the volume a little bit, like for solos.
You know, I know you like to use GHS boomer strings. Why is that?
I'm with Ernie Ball, actually, for strings.
Oh, okay. Who are some of your favorite classical influences?
You mean as composers or classical guitar players?
Either or.
Well, I don't think anybody can play classical guitar and not owe a tremendous debt of gratitude and appreciation to Segovia. He really put the classical guitar on the map in a totally different way, and I just never tire of listening to him. In more current modern players, I mean, my own teacher, Philip DeFremery, a classical guitar player, is absolutely a phenomenal teacher, player, interpreter of music. Incredible ears, incredible attention to detail. Evan Tauscher is like a more up-and-coming guy. He's been winning all of these classical competitions across the world, and he's a truly phenomenal, technician and musician all around. In terms of composers, if I limit myself to the classical era, because I also love Baroque and 20th century and Romantic, Mozart, but that seems so trite even to say. It's like, yes, of course Mozart, obviously Mozart. Beethoven, who's sort of is right classical and into the Romantic era, those are two of my hugest, most enduring inspirations. And then in more romantic era and thereafter, I love Stravinsky, and Ravel recently has been a favorite, and also Lily Boulanger, who is a contemporary of Debussy and Ravel, also a French composer. She died very young, but she was the first woman to win the Prix de Rome, which is a compositional prize that was very prestigious at the time.
I've only seen you play Music Man and Gibson guitars. Have you tried anything else as far as different guitar?
Yeah, well, I have a Dan Electro that I also play in Zepparella, and that's for In My Time of Dying, although the recording and video we did on the Levee Breaks, I used the Dan Electro on that. But for live purposes, I just keep the Dan Electro in the tuning for In My Time of Dying, and then I play When the Levee Breaks on the Les Paul in standard tuning. I have a Sadowski nylon string electric that is an incredibly cool and unique guitar. My steel string acoustics, I have a Stephen Strom Eros that is absolutely gorgeous. It's a piece of art in and of itself. And also a Santa Cruz Guitar Company OM model it sounds amazing too. And then my classical guitar is a Kenny Hill Ruck model. And then in terms of guitars I've just tried and played out, of course, I've tried Stratocasters, I've tried Telecasters, Paul Reed Smith, whatever. You pick up enough guitars. I don't remember all of them that I've played, but those are the ones that I listed that are mine are the ones that I've spent, many, many, many hours playing and I'm very familiar with.
You must have some endorsements from some companies. I
do. I'm very lucky to get to partner with the companies that I love and the gear that I prefer to play. So, all the ones that I mentioned. Let me see. I don't have a specific relationship with Gibson, but what do they need from me? They have Flash and Jimmy Page. So, but I'm very lucky. Actually, the first guitar that I ever had was a Music Man Silhouette, and so Music Man has always known that should they ever want anything to do with me, they got me. So Ernie Ball and Music Man, I love their instruments. I love their strings. Stephen Strom, Santa Cruz Guitar Company, DiMarzio for pickups and straps and cables. I have a Mesa Boogie Rosette acoustic amp that's wonderful. I did a demo for them and I got to keep the amp and I absolutely love it.
Oh, that's a nice
And then
deal.
Two-Rock amps. Yeah. Two-Rock amps are awesome. I love them. That became my rig for Zepparella, even though I have an old Marshall. I still love the old Marshall, but I love the Two-Rock more, which I know is kind of heresy in some people's minds, but if they've played the Two-Rock, they know what I'm talking about. And then I use a lot of Providence pedals, for like their Chrono Delay, the Phase Force. That's what I'm using for a boost pedal as well. Dunlop Jazz 3 picks. I hope I haven't left anybody off. That's what I remember right now. Sadowski, I mentioned them, yes.
Since you're playing the role of Jimmy Page in Zepparella, do you actually play everything note for note, or do you add your own little flair to it?
I would say I aim for both. Live shows bring up a whole host of sometimes complexities and things like that. So I'm not going to say I hit everything note for note without fail every night, but that is always my goal. And then the steps where I stretch out and do other things is it's the balance between the letter and the spirit of the music. I'm a Led Zeppelin fan, and if I go and I'm hearing a song that I know and love, chances are I want to hear it. I want to hear it. I want to hear the solo, and I want to say that I expect it to be mechanical, but I try to do what I would want if I were in the audience's position. So if there's a song with a solo in it, I learn it as close to note for note as I can possibly hear it. And then sometimes we'll extend sections or we'll do jams. So like, for instance, Dazed and Confused is a good example. I hit those opening harmonics as they are on the record. And then I go into an improvised section where I do try to just be spontaneous. Led Zeppelin was so spontaneous so much of the time that neglecting that, I think, would be doing a disservice to a huge component of the music.
Oh, yes.
Then once the song, and then once we get into the song, then I try to do it like the album, or in the case of, say, like I'm saying, Dazed and Confused, you have a lot of different tracks of guitar. So I'll refer to what Jimmy did live, and I'll incorporate sometimes a hybrid of what he did live with what was on the album, and then stretch out in sections where he stretched out live.
Would you say there's some songs that you have a little bit of difficulty with the solos?
No. Not from a technical standpoint. I think that there are certain solos that you have to be in the right. You have to get yourself in the right mind and heart space to deliver them with the emotional authenticity. Something like Since I've Been Loving You. A lot of times we're on stage, we're playing a rock show. There's people that are there and excited and all of that. And so to shift gears from that kind of thrill and excitement and get into such a dark, tragic, really emotionally vulnerable place to deliver that solo with the proper intention, sometimes that can be a little bit of mental gymnastics.
Is there going to be a follow-up? And I really hope, and I'm sure the fans out there, to Dante's Inferno, or not Dante's Inferno, but the Abandon All Hope. Is there going to be a follow-up to that?
That's a good question. Well, I'll just say the Divine Comedy has 3 sections, and Inferno is the first.
Do you have any plans right now? Are you currently working on it, or is it just something that's down the road? I
am working on it. I'm working actually on 2 albums right now. I'm working on an album that's sort of a counterpoint to the larger ensemble that was in Abandon All Hope. I'm doing an album for solo guitar, which I'm excited about. And that'll be coming up sooner than the sequel to Abandon All Hope. But I'm working on both concurrently.
Can you name any of the songs off it?
I don't want to do that yet because it's still kind of taking form. So, but I will say that it's definitely a continuation of where we've left off with Abandon All Hope.
Okay. Would you ever consider how there's a G3 tour? Would you ever consider doing something like a W3 tour with, like, say, Nina Strauss and Oriente or whoever you decided to pick?
Oh my God, absolutely. Whoever's putting that together, my answer is yes. And it's, and I don't, whether it's all women or whether it's, I don't differentiate. The way I see it, we're musicians, and getting together with amazing, inspiring guitar players for a celebration of guitar, my resounding answer will be yes. So.
Who would you like to work
Nina
with?
Strauss and Oriente are amazing.
I said, who would you like to work with if this tour ever took place?
Oh gosh, who wouldn't I like to work with? Is really the question. No, you mentioned 2 amazing ones, Nina Strauss and Oriente. Also, Neely Brosh is a phenomenal player and a dear friend of mine. Jennifer Batten, obviously. She was sort of the godmother for a whole generation of us who had really just one ripping female guitar player who was at least on our radar. I have since become aware of, Muriel Anderson and Mimi Fox and Emily Remler and other people, but I'm talking about a woman with spiked blonde hair on stage with Michael Jackson playing with, 8 fingers. That was pretty cool.
There's been so many fan pages out there. A friend of mine by the name of Dave Reich actually runs, it's called the Gretchen Menn fan page, much more than Zepparella. Have you actually heard of it and seen it or become a fan of it or anything?
It just hit my radar like a couple of days ago. Sometimes it's easy to miss stuff on social media. I try to balance, diligence with also, time to practice and improve as a musician. So sometimes I miss things, but it just hit my radar maybe a couple of days ago. It's really sweet, really flattering. I'm really grateful somebody wants to do something like that.
Oh, Dave's a big fan. Dave is a very big fan. If it wasn't for Dave, I wouldn't, be turned on to Zepparella and to you. I got to thank him and give him a shout out for that, for helping me get turned on to your music. And, the first time I seen Zepparella, and I hope it's not the last, you guys were just incredible. I mean, just incredible musicians. I can't stress that enough. Are there any plans of coming back to the Western New York area, whether it's through Zepparella or on your own?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we are working on some stuff for April. I think we actually have some dates already held, but I think like mid-April we have we're getting we're getting all the way across the country, in fact. So there should definitely be some things on the East Coast. The problem that often there is that people want us to play like within 5 minutes drive of their house.
Oh yeah.
And
exactly.
we can't always do that. It's like, when we're going across the country, it's like, look, if we're within 2 hours of you, like, get in your car. But we do our best. I mean, to get across the country for a band is no small expense and no small amount of time and energy spent coordinating it. So I always tell people if they want us to come back, support what you want to continue. So.
Well, I'll tell you right now, after seeing your show at the Trail, we definitely here in Buffalo want to see you back here because it was just a phenomenal show. I mean, like I said, just great. I mean, you guys are all talented musicians. You nailed it. I mean, for me, you nailed it right on the head.
Well, I really appreciate it. I know. I always say that we realize we are on holy ground, and so we strive to be very respectful in the way we approach the music, and I try to be very diligent as a student so that I never forget that, but just because, like you said, just because something may not pose a technical challenge doesn't mean that I should discount, the importance of revisiting it, of listening deeply, of striving to improve within whatever it is I'm doing. So my goal is that every time somebody comes to a show, I'll be a better guitar player than the last time they saw me.
And that's true because, hearing your CDs, hearing your music, seeing you live, I mean, you get better and better every time, definitely. And you are such a mind-blowing and incredible, talented musician.
Oh, I really appreciate it. I'm definitely a work in progress, and I plan to get right back to practicing, the rest of the day. But if people enjoy what, where I am right now, that means more to me than I can properly express.
Do you have any other interest? I mean, I'm sure you're busy with music, but do you have any other interest outside of music?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, other than what everybody has, like their friends and family and loved ones, I do love literature. I love reading. I love learning new things. And that can be anything. Sometimes I go down funny little rabbit holes. Like this week it's trying to get better at understanding like cameras and lighting, and I do really low skill videos. I'm trying to be better about that. Like in my house, I just set up a camera, set up my iPhone voice recorder and play some guitar. And it occurred to me, there's information out there on how to do this better. And so I've been kind of going down the rabbit hole of tutorials and trying to understand lighting and a bunch of stuff that I still don't yet understand about cameras and film and, video. But then there's other times, like I went through a total obsessive phase with the movie, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I watched every interview and read, Gunnar Hansen's book on making the movie. Sometimes I get these weird little interests and then I devour everything I can find about it. So yeah, I love all forms of art. Yeah. Film, literature. I have a friend who's a painter. Creativity is interesting to me. And anything that has to do with like the brain and neurology, that's another pet interest of mine.
With all these fan pages that are out there, it's got to be such an honor to have people just appreciate their showing their love for your talent. I mean, it's got to be such an honor to have all these fan pages out there for you.
It really is. I mean, you said it exactly right. It is an honor, and it is not something I take lightly, and it is never something that I will take for granted.
Do you participate in any of the fan pages?
I certainly try to pop in and, answer questions or, post things when I can. What can happen on social media is that sometimes you only see like the most recent notification. So like, let's say I'm offline for a day or whatever. Sometimes I don't see things. Like if I get tagged in stuff, I'm never on the news feed. I just kind of go through my notifications. So there have been times that I have very embarrassingly missed something really sweet or really lovely that it takes somebody kind of sending it to me or nudging me at the right time before I'll be like, oh my God, I missed this. So I do try to participate, but I also try to have the balance between, showing up to thank people and to answer questions, but also realizing these people are here because I play guitar. If I'm not playing guitar, then it's all for nothing. So I really try to have my practice time and my time that I carve out for musical education and growth, have that be really where I'm spending most of my time.
Who are just your general influences as far as guitar players?
Well, probably one of my first and most enduring, Steve Morse. There'll be times that I'll get really crazy about one guitar player and I'll listen to everything they've ever done, but I don't feel like I've ever not been in a Steve Morse phase. Like that's just always a given. Eric Johnson, amazing too. He was who initially inspired me to pick up the guitar. And then Jeff Beck, more recently, I definitely joined the cult of Jeff Beck, and love everything he does. Django Reinhardt is another one like Steve Morse that I've just never not been in the Django Reinhardt phase. Like anytime somebody puts on Django is the right time as far as I'm concerned. But then there's so many others, I mean, and in so many different genres. Sometimes I think that if I had better focus, I'd make better progress. But it's like, I can just as happily learn a Ritchie Blackmore solo or a Randy Rhoads solo or something, more modern, geek out on like the Aristocrats with like Guthrie Govan, but then like listen to Wes Montgomery or, try to learn some Louis Armstrong lines. It doesn't have to be guitar players. So I'm sometimes all over the place. I wish I didn't have to sleep, honestly. I could easily fill up 24 hours a day with stuff that I'm really excited to do.
Well, I just want to say that, what is the best way for everyone to keep in touch with your new music, your upcoming shows and everything?
I have a website. It's just my name, GretchenMenn.com. And that's probably the easiest thing to remember from that site. You know, there's links to all my social media, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And also on the page, I have, you can get my music. If you download Abandon All Hope from my website, then that allows me, doing it through Bandcamp, allows one high resolution audio file. That's the one that you got, as well as the album art and libretto. So since it was meant to be a concept album, it was never really intended to have the music be completely divorced from the artwork that Max Craze did, and then the storyline or libretto that Michael Melenda did. So I always encourage people to go about it that way, just because they really get the full experience. iTunes doesn't let you add all of those extras. But also I have lessons and things on my website, so things that I've done for Acoustic Guitar Magazine and a course that I have out now with Jam Play. So it's kind of one-stop shopping for all the different things that I'm doing.
How is this third album going to be different from the last one, Abandon All Hope?
Okay, so the third one that's coming out is the one that'll be for solo guitar. Do you mean the one that's the sequel to Abandon All Hope, or
yes,
do you mean the one for? Well, like I said, every day my goal is to be a better musician than I was the previous day, or to learn something. So I am currently doing my studying, writing musical ideas. But what I like to do is I like to get very familiar with the concept before I get too into the composing. And that means doing some study of the literary concept. So it'll be different. I'm going to be adding some other instruments. Abandon All Hope had drums, bass, guitar, keys, string quartet, and then some vocal here and there from my sister, actually, who was trained in opera. So I think for the next album, there may be going to be some other instruments as well.
Are you friends?
And the content will be somewhat different, yeah.
Ah, okay. Are you still friends with the former members of Zepparella?
Well, I mean, you fall out of touch, but I mean, Noel and Angeline are fabulous musicians, and I think they're doing all sorts of cool things on their own. Sometimes too much time goes by, but they are amazing at what they do, and I think Angeline she's always so in demand. She has a ton of projects, and, Noel just brings it with a magic and spirit that is irreplaceable. So while I can't say I talked to them earlier this week, I try to keep up on them and interact when we can. Sometimes when you're so used to having built-in interactions through being in a band together, you don't get used to carving out time. You know what I mean? Like if you have a neighbor who you really like and then you move away, it's like, oh, I have to put in effort to stay in touch with that person. Oh yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time, and it's been a pure, honest privilege to conduct an interview with you. And I really hope to see you come here in this area in April, because you got a lot of fans here that are definitely dying to see you.
Well, that is so kind of you. I'm so excited to get back. I remember loving Buffalo. We've played there a couple of times now, and every time the people, the venues, like just so many lovely memories, so many good people. And so I'm really hoping we'll get back in April or sometime very soon.
Well, like I said, there's a lot of people on to see you back here, including myself. And thank you very much for taking the time to conduct the interview, Gretchen. I really appreciate this.
Oh, thank you for taking the time to want to speak with me. I really appreciate it too.
Oh, you're welcome. Take it easy.
You too. All right. Have a lovely day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.